What's up, my people? Welcome to the new edition of Muck and Killa Talking Black. I'm your main man, Muck the Empath, along with my co-host, player, partner, Killa, the Conscious King in the house. What it do, baby?
What's happening there?
How y'all doing out there? First of all, we want to welcome everybody to the show. Join the conversation. This is a platform for where Black people can talk to Black people about being Black. Uh, Anywhere in the diaspora. We're trying to help move the culture forward. So with that being said, join the conversation. We want to welcome all those people here that don't consider themselves or don't identify with being Black. We welcome you to the conversation as well. This is a platform where if you're interested in culture and other people's value system, this is a great place to learn as well. Now, this is for Black people. We are talking to Black people, so you're welcome to listen to the conversation. But if you ain't Black or don't identify with being Black, this is not a conversation for you to join just to be a spectator. But all my people that identify with being Black, join the conversation, give your opinions and everything. So also to anybody out there that's an agent that's just in here looking and listening to see what we're saying so they can go back and tell the man what we're talking about, we welcome you too. Because at the end of the day, we're here talking truth. It's nothing here. If you hear us say something that ain't true, it's just our opinion. So like my man Martin Lawrence say, you can go run and tell that. But other than that, one other thing of business. We want you to, wherever you're coming from, whatever platform you're watching this on, we're live on Facebook Live. We're also live on Media Room 360 TV. If you don't have the app, Media Room 360, go to your app store, go to Google Play, download the app. You can watch us live on that. This platform is minority owned. I don't know, it's Black owned, it's female owned. Miss Shani Scott has put this thing together for the people to have a platform. So we thank her for that. So we need to show that support for Media Room 360 TV. So download the app. With that being said, that the business is taken care of, let's get into the show. Over to my man Killa.
Hey, what's happening, everybody? Basil, great job. Remember, get that app, Mobile 360. We're going to jump right into it today. Basically, today's topic is talking Black about politics. And so we're going to start with a definition that Neely Fuller provides, very straightforward definition about politics. But remember, we're talking about the 9 areas of people activity. That's education, entertainment, economics, labor, law, religion, politics, sex, and war. And this is the 6th area of activity, which is politics. And Neely Fuller defines politics as people relations. And
people relations.
People relations. And so he has a series of suggestions. These aren't orders. These are just suggestions that we could take on as codified behavior to combat and counter the effects of racism, white supremacy. Okay. His book that he wrote with the United Independent Compensatory Code System concept. Oh, that's a mouthful, ain't it? It's really talking about how we can produce justice versus what we currently have right now, which is injustice, and that you can't have both. So what do you think about that, Muck?
Oh, it's a great topic. I mean, because it's people relationship, right? And I like the way Neely broke that down. That's one thing that me and you agree with Neely. He kind of simplifies terms so people can get on the same page about what that is. So let's talk about it, man.
Yeah, no, I mean his whole focus is to reduce the confusion and eliminate deception. A lot of times, he describes these relationships between people. Again, politics is people relations, and so he has a concept called tragic relationships. And in that, his definition is both white and non-white people thinking and speaking and acting in a manner that is tragic, that is shameful, disgraceful, loathsome, trashy, and terroristic. And so that describes the relationships amongst people. And so when we're talking about people relationships, we got to keep this in mind. and make sure we're not falling in those traps.
Yeah, that's what's up. So just thinking about the topic, knowing that we were going to talk about politics and talking black politics. So you know me, I'm a researcher, man. I'm gonna look up everything and try to come. My whole process is this: I'm gonna look at all the information that's out there,
Yeah.
and then I'm gonna dissect it, and then I'm gonna come up for myself what I believe the truth is. You know what I'm saying? And that's pretty much what I speak on. Is all of my research. I'm taking credible people's points of view. I'm taking the uncredible people's point of view, but I'm trying to get a holistic view of what's going on, so I can better put myself in a position to know what's going on. So when I was thinking about politics, one of the things that I was thinking about, so knowing Neely's definition of people relationships, right? It's just how we interact with one another. So I got to thinking to myself, what do most people think about when they hear the word politics? So if you think about that, when people say politics, what comes to your mind about politics?
Well, I wanted to also share a couple of other definitions he had, because it's important to kind of have a foundation. And so he talks about tragic relationships. He talks about quality relationships, and the type of relationship or the type of person we should aim to be, and then 4 basic questions. And so basically, he defines a quality relationship as a total absence, right? This is a quality relationship. And it's the absence of pretense, dishonesty, deception, falsehood in regards to each other every day in every area of those activities I mentioned earlier, and they produce a constructive result. And then he goes on to say, hey, listen, as individuals, men and women that make up a society, he says male and female persons who know and understand truth. This is what they call a universal man and woman. And these are the people who use their knowledge and understanding to produce justice and correctness. And lastly, the 4 basic questions we should always ask whenever we're doing anything is, what do you want to do? Why do you want to do it? How do you plan to do it? And what is the constructive, or what do you expect the constructive result to be? And that's it. So we kind of gave y'all a foundation, because now Muck is going to tell you his definition of what politics is to him. And we're going to tie all this together in a conversation.
Yeah. So people relationships. I do agree with that fundamental principle. So I looked in, what does America politics mean? So I went back to the root word. So Aristotle wrote a book called Politics back in the 4th century. Now, polis is a root word. It's a Greek word which means city, right? So politics is just the affairs of a city. So that the whole book, the dude wrote an 8 series book basically about this, and this how deep he went into detail with the different types of relationships that people must have and maintain for a city, which is, and they differentiated that from a tribe or a village or a community. So what made you, we both know that pretty much American society is a kind of a rendering of Greek society back in the day, ancient Greek, and therefore before that a distorted form of Egyptian society, right? But the way we look at politics in America is, it's all about the city. It's all about the operations of a city or metropolis, right? So these are massive things. So when I got to looking at those terms, it's basically telling me that politics is not really concerned with the community, vis-a-vis the village or the family unit or the tribe. Its main goal is not to even deal with the family and the community. It's there for the business of the city and everybody that's involved with the business of the city. You know what I'm saying? So when you look at it like that, I had to ask myself, well, if it's not set up for the community's benefit, and it's not set up for the family's benefit, and it's set up for the cities benefit, then can American politics really help the Black community?
Right.
You see what I'm saying?
Right.
Like, can they really help the families?
And the key word there is American politics.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Because we're talking about American culture.
Yes.
And when we talk about American culture, we have to understand the foundations of that culture.
True.
Who were the founding fathers? And what did they write about, the society?
Yeah.
Who did they include? Who did they not include? And so we got to be realistic about these things and realize that some of these terms we're using can be confusing to people. This is why we're trying to define it, talking Black.
Yeah. No doubt.
Right? Talking Black is a mindset. It's not just how you say certain words.
Yeah.
It's how you think. It's who you connect with, who you work with. It's the hip hop community.
Yeah.
But more importantly, and that's what actually, I'm gonna do you a solid. Were you done?
Actually, I wasn't done.
I had a feeling you wasn't done. Go ahead.
You know, I like to talk.
Go ahead.
So, that was like the foundation when I was researching. That's the foundation word, polis, city. But there's several different definitions that if you look in Webster or whatever dictionary, there's several different meanings of politics, right? Depending on the situation. And one of the definitions was, politicking is basically talking to people in such a way to where you can convince them to do what you want to do, right? Basically. So now I started thinking about the politician. You know what I'm saying? What is the politician's role in this? And if the politician is set up to address city needs, and by and large, I mean, it's for the people that's in the city, but their main concern is the city business, right? So when these politicians get on here and start talking about, what they can do for the people, and in my mind, they've already started the deception right there, because by definition, they're not there for the community or the people. They're there for the city business and all those that are involved with the city business. And one thing I'm finding out, when they start shutting you out of the economic system and the government system, which they have systematically done, and that's what we're talking about. When I say systematic racism, that's what I'm thinking about. I'm thinking about how the system has been designed to weave out and put people in positions of power that look a certain way. And if you think about this, if this was an equal society that we lived in, where everybody in the society had an equal opportunity, equal access to the resources and the development that's supposed to come with the society, I don't think it's mathematically possible for 45 of the 46 presidents of the country to be middle-aged white men. You know what I'm saying? If it was truly open to everybody, then there would have been a woman by now. There'd have been, what I'm saying? There would have been an Asian. There would have been, what I'm saying? 2 or 3 Black people, 2 or 3 women. You don't, what I'm saying? It's not, I mean, as diverse as the country is, we'd have had leaders come from those different demographics.
What does that say about our society, though? I mean, when we only have one image of power, ultimate power, right? Because the president represents the leader of the free world. He
represents the leader of the free world.
Right.
And we're going to talk about that too. We're going to talk about that too, because I do think he's just a representative. I think there's people behind.
So that's my definition, right?
Yeah.
My definition is that the politics is a representative process in which they get the majority of people to, participate in, to agree that these are going to be your leaders, right? Now, I don't have necessarily a problem with that, but I understand what's going on. You're getting buy-in once a year once every 4 years.
4 years, yeah.
Yeah, you're getting a buy-in to say, hey, I support this guy being or gal. Now we got our first woman vice president. I think is awesome, right?
I do too. Yeah.
Kamala Harris is being I mean, you know, what is this doing for the image of young Black women, right? I mean, you see it all, you know, the pearls and chucks and all this stuff going on. I think it's fantastic because, you know, we got Black men got that image upgrade with Obama. And now, you know, even though, you know, she could very well be president, but Joe Biden's a very old man, right? I mean, he might not make it. He'll get. Yeah. But at the end of the day, you know, they're getting our buy-in in this system, right? I'm just kind of looking at it for what it is. In this system, we're saying, hey, these are elected representatives. Don't have a problem with that. What I have a problem with is then they go away, you don't hear from them. And one thing I will say that was good about Donald Trump's presidency, even though I don't agree with his policies and how he actually led, was you got to see what's going on every day.
Yeah. He was on Twitter.
You got to see what's going on every day. It's like watching the stock market. It's like, hey, okay, it's going up today, down and down. You know, and so that was the good part. We got more insight into what was going on. Yeah. I don't think he had the overall view to take care of all the people. You know, he was taking care of a lot of people, obviously, but not all the people. And so that's where, you know, I think that's why he loses the popular vote. That's why the Electoral College votes him out. That's why at the end of the day, you know, now we have a new administration, and I'm glad and happy and a whole lot less anxious about what's going on in our government because it affects so much.
So, okay, let me ask you this then. Because the way we've been using America, the regime of America, from the founding fathers to now, we have 46 presidents, right? All in the United States, right?
Yeah.
There was a Confederate at one time that said, you know, we're going to break away from this here country because we don't like the way that things are being done. So we want to do it our way down here. America's gonna do it their way that way, right? The Confederate created a whole different country, right? Yeah. America said, no, we're not here. We control these borders. They went to war. The Union won, right?
Yeah.
So now the Union was in power when the slaves, like when this whole time we've been enslaved, the Union has been in power. Ever since they overtook this country from the British, because it's a British colony, right? So this is the exact same regime from the beginning that's been doing all this stuff to Black people. So what I saw in Trump was actually, in my eyes, a Confederate president. And this is why I believe they think that he was the greatest president that they ever had, because Trump was representing the Confederate and not the United States.
Good point.
You know what I'm saying? You know what I'm saying? Because if you look at when I saw that picture of that guy in the White House, I mean not in the White House, but in the Capitol with that Dixie flag, that was like planting your flag. They basically Dixie, which they've always said this. They've always said the South will rise again. That's why they kept those monuments. That's why they kept that rebel flag. Absolutely. They have never really, they feel like us in a sense that, hey, America has,
right?
Yeah, like America has actually put down their movement and suppressed them. And that's the feeling that they were having is, hey, we're being suppressed too. We wanted to live a certain way. And some motherfuckers from up north came down and said, we can't do it. And we fought them, we lost. And now we're subject to them. But my question to Black people is, what's the difference? And that's what Trump was asking. Trump was like, what do y'all have to lose? America's been mistreating Black people the whole time. So why not give me a shot?
Do a party flip. I mean, you know, like when back in the 60s, late 60s, Malcolm X did a presentation on the ballot or the bullet.
Yeah.
And most people aren't familiar with his address under the ballot or the bullet. And what he talked about was how the party did start out as Republican. and black folks supporting Republicans, right?
Yeah.
And then there's a transition of power in the base now starts supporting Democrats, and it was due to the politics in the South and how this transition of power took place. And so my thing is that when do we become Democrats if we started out as Republicans? And it just had to do with the transfer of power. Now, we all know that black folks vote in blocks. We vote 97% Democratic or something like that. Yeah. And we've been voting that way since the late 60s when that power transition took place. So
go ahead. Go ahead.
My point is that, listen, if we're after something as a group of people and we can't recognize what's going on, all the dog whistle, all the history associated with this experience that we're not synthesizing, comprehending, and we can't just go with the flow anymore. That's why we having these conversations, right? We want to help bring to the forefront, questions that should be asked, and just define these terms so we know what we're talking about, so we can build. Yeah. What do you think?
No, I think you're right. It's the breaking down. I think the English language itself is very confusing. That's why they say it's one of the hardest languages to learn, because one word means so many different things, and it can actually mean the opposite of the other word. You know what I'm saying? You're using the same word. So there's a lot of deception in the way that we speak. Not only that, we're talking about politics, but the term politically correctness or political correctness is a term to say, okay, I'm going to say out here in public things so people don't feel bad. You know what I'm saying? So I don't want to hurt anyone's feelings. So I'm going to say these things. We're not concerned with the truth. How much are we concerned with the truth versus the deception in our speech and not hurting somebody's feelings? I'm not advocating for going out, just browbeating somebody with, even if you're telling the truth and you're telling to hurt somebody, I think that's a bad thing myself. But if you're telling truth so people can be enlightened, you got to tell that truth. And I don't think that's something that we do in mainstream American society, because if you start telling the truth, you're going to start seeing some things that they've been trying to cover over our eyes for a long time. And that's not just black people, that's anybody. They can see the deception in what's going on.
Well, yeah, I mean, if you're not recognizing earlier when we talked about, tragic relationships, and quality versus quality relationships, and the difference between the two is basically deception and confusion that comes from deception. And that is being used as a tool to nullify a whole group of people. I mean, how many times have you, as it relates to people relations, how many times have you gotten an argument with somebody just over the facts? Like, you just had a difference in opinion, in the understanding and comprehension of the facts. Now you're thinking about something totally different, and you're no longer talking about whatever you were talking about. What's your experience with that?
No, that happens to me all the time, because until you get to an understanding, especially if you're using the English language and you're talking. Now, me and you do this a lot. We'll talk for hours in a heated debate, and then find out an hour later we were talking about the same thing. But it takes that kind of takes that kind of dialogue to get to an understanding, and I think that's all people really want. You know what I'm saying? It's okay to differ in opinions and differ in the way that you go about things, but the problem is we don't take the time to get to understand somebody. That's part, and I think that's part of the system. That's why we're divided up into, black, white, Democrat, Republican, conservative, liberal, all these dualities in America and in our society. Why? If we're, why is so much duality? You know what I'm saying? It's like, why do we have to have?
You mean double standard?
Huh?
You mean double standard?
Not double standards, but so how many different opinions are there, right? So
Yeah.
why we got two?
I mean, buttholes are
Exactly. Everybody's got one. But my point is this: all you got is Democrat and Republican, and that's an agreement. If you're a Democrat, you're agreeing to a set of ideals. If you're a Republican, you're agreeing to a set of ideas. Even if, yeah.
So when you say that, what if you don't agree with those ideas? What party do you belong to?
You got to roll with the party. Even if you don't agree with that particular instance, you've got to roll with the whole body. For instance, if you're a Democrat, but you don't believe in homosexuality, well, Democrats are the party of the LGBT community too. So, you know what I'm saying? There's a lot of infighting within the Democratic Party, as well as there is in the Republican Party and whatnot, which is, to me, why we don't get nothing done at the end of the day.
Is that by
set up like that? Yeah, I think it's set up that way.
Yeah.
It's set up to make a whole bunch of talk to make the people, the people think that we're involved in the process. At the end of the day, I don't think America is any different than a kingdom. I think we got a king. I think this is a monarchy myself, because there's somebody, or if not a monarchy, is an oligarchy where you have a small group of people, very small, that's really calling the shots.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? And everything else, like you said, is just it's figurehead, it's structure, it's organization, because democracy in itself means, one man, one vote. The majority rules. Well, why do you come in with the electoral college then?
Yeah.
Why do you come up with that? And then if this was really a democracy, when the founding fathers founded the country, only white land-owning men could vote. I mean, even if you was white and you didn't have no land, you didn't have a say. If you was a woman, you didn't have a say. You damn sure didn't have a say for slaves. Damn sure didn't have a say. So who was the country set up?
According to his master.
So who is the country designed for? Who was it designed for? We talk about the relationships of people. You got two different types of, and I wanted to go here too. So underneath a political system, it's a way of governing people, way of managing relationships between the people in a city, right? So you got different ideologies and how you do that. You got democracy, you got communism, you got socialism, you got distributism, you got a lot of different ways to manage that, right? That's the social aspect. Then you got the economic aspect, which is set up for, you have to get every society has to make sure that its people have what they need, right? The food, right, the water, the clothing, the resources to develop their minds, all that kind of stuff. That's what each society is claiming that they're going to do for their people, right? So they come up with a system in order to do that effectively. We just so happen to be in a democratic republic with a capitalistic economic system, right?
Where do Black people fit in that system? Tell me about that. Like, how do you see where we fit, in the grand scheme of all of this systematic strategy, plan to keep power?
So I see it like this. When you look at the economic system, it's a capitalistic system. So fundamentally to me, capitalism is where some person, a man, woman, has access to financial resources and materials. Right. So they can produce a product, right? But they need labor. They need somebody to actually do it, because the job of a capitalist is not to do the work. It's to get other people to do the work at a small price so they can sell the end product for a profit. Right?
Wow.
So that's the capitalism in a nutshell is that to me.
So you mean that there's somebody who has devised a plan to create a product and charge so much for the product they can pay a person like me to work the product, and they can make enough money that they can make a profit, and they don't even have to work as hard as me.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. You know it. You know.
I'm just yeah. I'm just gonna clarify.
No, that's what it is, and that's what capitalism is. In a nutshell. Now, there's different, you come up with all different kind of concepts and layering and people justifying it. But at the end of the day, if it doesn't make a profit, they shutting it down. Right. I don't care how good the intentions was for the company. The company could have been giving little babies new arms, for you know what I'm saying. But that comes at a price, and with that price, at the end of the day, if the company that set it up doesn't make money, that company is out of there the next day. You see what I'm saying? Wow. So to me,
so how we apply this to Talking Black? So if we don't get listeners and get people to engage in our show, are we gonna be out of there too?
Definitely. I mean, from here's the deal. From a viewers, we're not gonna get corporate sponsors to come in and support the show. They just want people to look at this show in order to be able to sell them something so they can make a profit. That's what the companies are looking for. Now, we're here because we're trying to give people information. But obviously, in order to do that and stay on the air, we've got to be working with the system to some extent, right? That's just part of it. So back to your original question. The reason why they brought Black people to this country was because you're going to be a capitalist and you can get somebody to work for free. Man, think of the profits you can make if you didn't have to pay the workers. That's a genius plan.
But Neely, I'm going to take it back to Neely real quick because he has a series of questions that we should be asking because we sound like the game is loaded, man. Like, I mean, white people are out here stressing too. Like, there's a question that he asked in his book. It said, if racism was invented to benefit white people, like we're talking about, by mistreating non-white people, why do many white people suffer during the existence of white supremacy?
Yeah.
He gives an answer. What's your answer?
My answer is this. The people that set up this country and the people that set up every country, for the most part, are not doing it for the people. They're doing it for their people. And when we say white people, we're including every white person, but the people that set this country up weren't including every white person when they set it up. They were including their bloodline and their friends. That's why nobody was able to vote, but the people that had land. They would discriminate on white people back then.
I mean, if it's your house, right? If you own a house, you gonna let somebody else come in and tell you how to run your house?
I'm not.
Neely said just that. He said he made this analogous. So the question again is, if racism was invented to benefit white people by mistreating non-white people, why do so many white people suffer during the existence of white supremacy? And his response was, it was analogous to war. And when you're, in that what racism, white supremacy is like war. And like in most war situations, some of the people who are soldiers in that war are themselves killed and maimed, in other ways seriously harmed during the war to establish and maintain and expand or refine the system of, in this case, white supremacy. And many white people who believe and practice this white supremacy concept sometimes make themselves in what they seem to say, they make mistakes, and then they do inadvertent harm to themselves or other white people, causing them to serve as sacrifices.
Casualties of war.
Casualties of war. Or what they would call white sacrifices.
Yeah. So listen to this though. What language do we speak?
English.
Whose language is that?
England's language.
Okay. So Germans are white people too.
They got a language.
French are white people too.
They got a language.
They got a language too, right? So why are we speaking English?
Well,
because
I mean, they were the dominant of those ones that you mentioned.
Because this is an English colony. This was a British colony that spoke English. So they weren't privy to French people either. They were like French that came over here, the Germans that came over here, the Irish that came over here. That's not the British bloodline. They didn't give a damn about them either.
Right. They were allies though.
But here's the deal. In Europe, they was fighting all the time. They grow up fighting each other. So when they got here, that's just what they do. That's how white people, in my opinion, are able to come over here and be more successful as immigrants, because they're coming from a culture that's used to the violent tactics of other European countries. When the first Europeans came up on the African continents and started mingling with the African people had no concept of a lack like that. You know, it's like Europe is a very cold, in a sense, barren land. In a sense, it wasn't plush, you know. And then cold winters.
Are you saying you're not getting your oranges from England?
I'm saying if I am, it's GMO probably. It's probably, you know what I'm saying? But no, but if you think about that, Killa, if you're in Europe and it's cold and you only can hunt, you know, half the year, because you know the animals in the winter times, they migrate to where it's warm, right? So Europeans had a limited amount of time to do everything they need to do, and that was the summertime, right?
Right.
And there wasn't enough to go around. They literally lived in a situation where there wasn't enough food for everybody. So they come from a situation of lack. So they fighting for scraps. So they learn how to fight to eat and survive. When they came up on the Africans were like, yeah, we went all together. We was in tribes, but it's like my tribe over here with my family. You know, I'm taking care of my family. You take care of your family over there. That's your tribe. Now, we had some issues with each other. It was probably due to a miscommunication. Somebody said something to my son. Yeah, your daughter and my son was going together, and they got into it. Now, me and you into it. You know what I'm saying? That's the kind of battling that was happening in Africa. They wasn't fighting over lack of resources because they had abundance. So when the Europeans came over, they looking at this like, man, why are we sharing with the Europeans? We're giving because we got more than enough. They were like, man, they don't know what they doing. They giving us food for free. We about to take this shit and take it home. And that was their mindset. So if you look at Europe, I mean, like, getting back to Britain, the Brits took over half the world as an imperial power. You know what I'm saying? So they transported their culture all over the world. But it was their culture. They don't speak French in Nigeria. They do in the Ivory Coast, though, because the Ivory Coast was a French colony. You know what I'm saying? Like, so the Portuguese had colonies, the Dutch had colonies, but they were allies in a sense that they were going to try to keep the black man down, but they weren't allies to the point where they was doing everything together. The only thing they got in common is trying to make sure the black people on the bottom. The rest of it to them is fair game. They fighting for the rest of it.
How important is it to know our history? Like, I mean, when we're trying to make decisions right now, today, why is it important to know what happened in England and all this other kind of stuff? I mean, why is that important at all?
To me, it's important because you got to know where somebody come from. It's just the whole in Native American parables. You got to walk a mile in somebody else's moccasins, you know, before you can judge them. You got to see, you know where you come from. You've seen the decisions that they had to make. Now you can look forward to, okay, so if I'm ever in that situation again, I can look to what they done in the past in order to know what I can kind of project in the future, what could happen if I know where I come from. Also, it's really important to know, in my opinion, it's really important to know your bloodline. It's like your immediate ancestry.
Is that even possible though? Can you really know where you come from, like using your
Boy,
blood?
black African Americans,
Yeah.
no, we can't, because we're a mixed race. At this point, like when we talk about the tribes in Africa, huh?
How can that be a priority if you can't figure that out?
So it's not. It's really not a priority for a lot of black people, because the process is so hard. They got these ancestry.com where you can go in and take the DNA test, and they can tell you, your DNA and where your history is. Man, every black person I know that's taking that test is
Yeah.
is at least 8 different things. You know what I'm
Right.
saying? Because when they brought us over here, think about this. If you were in a tribe, you had a culture. The tribe next to you may have a totally different value system, totally different culture. When the Europeans brought us over here, they didn't give a damn about the culture. They mixed all the people together. They bred different cultures together. Just because we were black didn't mean we had the same cultures in Africa. You see what I'm saying? We didn't have the same bloodlines as in Africa. You know what I'm saying? I did an ancestry on me and my family, and I could trace my lineage back to slavery. My great grandmother on my mom's side, and her name was America. She was a slave. She was the one that I could trace back to. On my dad's side, I could do my grandmother back to the plantation and the plantation owner that owned her grandparents, and she was a mulatto, which means the slave master was the daddy of my grandmother. You see what I'm saying? So my grandmother had white in her from being a mulatto. But so when you start looking up that's as far as I could get. I couldn't get back to a tribe, right? Or in Africa. I can't get back to a land in Africa and say, this is where I'm from in Africa. And which is sad, because to say that we're African American is like saying I'm Mexico. I'm Mexican, but I'm really from Canada. Well, it's the same continent, so it should mean no. Africa has 58 different countries in the second largest continent. So,
right.
Am I from Nigeria? Am I from Egypt? Am I from Zambia? Am I from Tanzania? Am I from Monaco? Where's my bloodline from? And African Americans don't know that.
Yeah, no, that's why I asked the question, because my thing is to focus on the history and not necessarily the DNA, because you're not going to figure that out.
But whose history are you? Whose history
will tell you where you're at on this timeline. We're in 2020, but there's been several thousands of years that preceded us that we don't know nothing about, which determine where we're at right now. So my whole thing is to go back, learn as much as you can, so that we can have more, substantive conversations, right? Because one thing me and you do is research, reading, all kind of stuff. Another question that I had was, in controversial nature, is what's the greatest fear that most white people have in regards to their interactions with non-white people? And Neely's response was very, very, very straightforward. He said the greatest fear is that a great number of white females will produce a great number of non-white babies by non-white males, and do so in uncontrollable numbers. And this could be the fear that produced this system of white supremacy and racism. What do you think?
I disagree with that. I mean, I think there's a number of people that do feel that way. I do believe that there's some white people that feel that way, and I'm saying that based on some actions, because when you look at the lynchings in the Jim Crow South, the number one reason was some black man that said something to a white woman. So so there's a lot of fear there. But I go back to this. I don't believe that enslavement and degradation of black people by the Europeans was racially motivated. I think it was financially motivated. I think they did the shit for money. That's what I believe. If you look, I mean,
I don't agree with you. I think that it was a outwardly expression of being able to differentiate amongst people, mistreat people that didn't look like you and who you identify with, and then on top of that, put an economic challenge on them. So not only are you fighting the shade of your or the color of your skin, but you're fighting, not being able to get in the club because you don't look a certain way, and then not being able to work at the club, and then not being able to feed your family because you don't have no way of, or you hadn't thought about a way that you could solve your problem. It was all based on, and I think the biggest problem that we have as a group is asking for a job and working, underneath this system and expecting a certain level of treatment. When you're asking for a job, you don't get to say nothing. You got to deal with the conditions that you're dealing with.
Yeah.
And I think that's where our white counterparts say, hey, listen, this is our country. Y'all work for us, and you better doggone well understand that. Otherwise, we're gonna make you understand it another way. So we're gonna shoot kids in the street. We'll do all this other dysfunctional stuff to remind you of your place in our world. And I think
let me ask you this though. Let me ask you this. So when we talk about how other white people get caught up in this system, right? And how you're saying it's what did we say it was? Casualties of war, right? But when you look at the history, when the Italians came over, when the Irish came over, and for the jobs in the North and America's booming, right? They were treated the same way. They put them directly in slums too. They were not considered white people. Italians weren't considered white people because the British didn't consider them. That wasn't their bloodline. So they mistreated them just like they was mistreating us. The reason why the blacks went to the North and moved from the South to go work in the factories, because all this opportunity, because the all those other Hungarian immigrants and other white European immigrants start saying, man, we ain't working like this. I don't know if you ever heard, but it was a massacre where, was it the Rockefeller, they killed like 3,000 white people because they was on strike.
Right.
They were striking for more benefits. Didn't he send an army out? Like Rockefeller sent an army out to break up the strike, and they killed these people. These was white people, but they wasn't part of the white people that created the structure. And that's what I'm saying. I'm like, this is certain white people, not all white people. It's certain white people, and we start looking at who the people are that made the system. Where was all the founding fathers from?
That's a good point. That's a good point. I mean, you can't. It can't be all white people.
No,
that wouldn't be right. No. Because I know very good people on both sides of the aisle.
Oh, you sound like your boy.
Who?
There was good people on both sides. You sound like your
boy. No. Here's what I'm saying. Like, I'm talking about as a group of people, all white people. All of them can't be bad.
Oh, no.
That's just not, to me, it's not possible.
I got white people in my family. I got white people that I know, friends that that I trust with my life, and I, what I'm saying. So it's not, when I say white people, or I say the man or the system, I'm talking about a certain power structure that the people that created the power structure just happen to be white. So it's not all white people. Like, who's on the money? Who's on our currency?
All the presidents.
What color are they? Thank you. You see Hispanics on the money?
Unless you're looking at a penny, right?
Yeah, he copper, but you know who the image is of somebody that's you know what I'm saying? So that's how I was looking at it. I'm looking at, okay, there's a certain structure, and these people that created the structure are from a certain place, and they all related. And it seemed to me that they were locking out everybody that wasn't a part of their initial structure. But the whole time, everybody that's not in that initial structure is actually trying to break the system down. And it's not just white people, it's not just black people, it's everybody that was outside of that original group. And that original group has expanded in the fact that they have their legacy. Like it's the kids of the founding fathers, it's the relatives and their friends of the founding fathers that still have control of this country.
So yeah,
small piece.
Let's get in to see what our people think. And everybody been listening today. What questions that we can answer for you that you have? We got about 10 minutes left in the show. We're gonna make sure we make this interactive. And then after we do the question and answer, we're gonna get into some movies and a book for the month of February, which is Black History Month, and then the movie of the week, American Skin. We're gonna talk about that a little bit. How about that, Basil?
That sounds good, bro. So, any questions about? So, let me ask this. Let me ask this question: do we really think the black politician is making an impact on the community?
That's what do y'all think? Yeah, what do y'all think about that? Anybody got something in the comments? It's the time to get interactive in the show.
Get in. I tell you mine while we waiting. I like Barack Obama, and we talked about this a lot, me and you. It was great from a psychological standpoint, an emotional standpoint, as far as seeing an African American, a black man in that powerful position gave you pride. You say, okay, this can actually, we've actually made some strides. We actually doing something. We have a black man sitting in the seat, right? We can debate, and we often do, how much change did he make in the system? Did the system change much? Or did the system change at all? Okay, Sean, some yes, some no. What kind of benefits do black politicians, what is the goods that black politicians do then? That's the question.
Well, I think, I'm a little biased because, I think it was the imagery of Obama's presidency that made an impact on young lives and changed the perceptions. They changed the perceptions of what you could actually accomplish in the system, right? Potentially, they gave these young kids something to look up to, something to aspire to, in a sense. And I think when we did universal health care, adding 47 million people to universal health care, in a sense, was a positive thing that would probably never happen because we have a capitalistic mindset in this country where if it doesn't make dollars, it don't make sense.
But man, do you know how much money they made with that policy? We didn't get any better health care, and my premiums didn't go down, but the healthcare companies made out like the insurance companies made out like a fat rat.
Well,
so
yeah, I don't know
the benefit on that.
I don't know the numbers, but I had a job. I didn't need universal health care, so I don't know what the experience was in that regard. All I know is that you had 47 million people that didn't have coverage that now had coverage. I think that's a good thing. If you can insure a car, if you can insure your house, why wouldn't you give people health insurance? And so to me, that whole social movement that was led by that administration, his administration, was a positive. And there were other positives. You look at the car industry and how
Yeah, no, that was it. But hold up. That was a private enterprise, right?
Yeah.
So if I go out of business, if I own my own business and I'm falling short with my mortgage or my rent, the government ain't gonna come bail me out. So why did we bail out the banks?
Because they have a bigger impact. they bail out the banks because they have a bigger impact on the economy. If the banks fail and you doing bad, you're gonna be doing worse when the banks fail. So
Yeah.
I mean, I understand
No,
why.
I get it.
Yeah, I understand why they do what they do. I'm just saying that, when we look at these situations and try to figure out how to improve our situation as a culture, as a group of individuals that are thinking a certain kind of way, that want, you know what I'm saying, that they ain't buying into what somebody else told them about themselves, right? Like Malcolm used to talk about that. We got to define for ourselves what we think about ourselves. And that's what this show is about.
That's what we're talking about.
For ourselves who we are, and not allowing, somebody to tell you, oh, you a thug, or you a dope boy, or you this and you that. And then we buy into those things and then wonder why we in a bad position as a group. So I'm gonna jump into this movie thing, man. I think it's key for us to watch and support good movies, especially American Skin, directed by Nate Parker. He plays this movie director. He plays this Marine veteran that is working as a school janitor, and he's trying to mend his relationship with his son after he got divorced from his wife. And when his son gets killed by a police officer that was found innocent without standing trial, he takes matters into his own hands, B-Mitch. He's the director, the writer, and they even got ghosted. Omari Hardwick in there. So a little surprise. We got to take that out. What do you think about the movie, man? And you give it 1 or 2 thumbs up in the end.
All right, man. So, dude, it was so powerful. You know what I'm saying? First of all, Nate Parker is a phenomenal actor, man. I love him. If you don't know who he is, he was in The Great Debaters. He was in that turn, the Birth of a Nation. Bro is just he's a great actor. And now So and now his directing skills. I don't know if this was his debut as a director, but the thought process behind the movie, man, just the whole setup was a different way of looking at the same issue of police brutality and unarmed black men being killed. It was just a total different way of looking at it, man. But one of the things, movies are there to take you through an emotional roller coaster, man. So it did that, man. From, like I was up and down, man, from crying to laughing to being mad to being sad to being concerned to being fucking angry at the end of the day, where it was like that kind of movie. Yeah, all those kind of things in one sitting. And the movie wasn't that long. It was a 90-minute movie. So if you haven't seen it, go check it out. It's American Skin, Amazon Prime.
Amazon Prime. All the social media outlets have it available. You can check it out in the comfort of your own home. So
watch it with somebody. I would suggest, man, if you have kids, black boys or girls. This is like a family movie. Me and my wife watched it together. Me and Sheree watched it. Didn't really. You told me about it, so I knew what it was about, but I didn't know. I sit there. You didn't spoil it for me, so you just sit there and say, "Okay, I'm gonna let you watch it," and I'll come back and ask you some questions about it. But man, when me and Sheree watched that, we was like, I had tears rolling down my eyes one minute. Like I said, it was just it was emotionally impactful. Go check it out.
You could watch it in the comfort of your own home. And before we wrap up, we got 90 seconds. Book of the month is obviously Neely Fuller's United Independent Compensatory Code System Concept. This is a great book for you to understand the systematic and the 9 different areas of activity. We're definitely going to have more conversation around these topics. We need y'all to be more to engage us. We're not going to spoil it for you, Shanae.
Yeah, no. Hey, but back to, before we go off, I want to talk about, so my biggest takeaway from the movie was that it's kind of a line drawn in the sand for me. If you're not with the people, if you're black and you identify as being black, and you ain't down for looking out for black people in a system that's obviously targeting us, I can't fuck with you. At this point, man, it's like, man, if you ain't with us, you with them. That's kind of how I'm seeing it. That was my biggest takeaway. And it's like, I don't have time to be playing with nobody that's placating to a system that's not going to ever love you. At the end of the day, it's not going to ever love you. So you have to, we got to man up. We got to do what we got to do. And like, if y'all seen Big Brink's Bake Room, that came on before this show, they talked about this, and Shawnee talked about black men not being able to stand up and protect our own, our women and our children. And it's going to be on us, black men, in order to stand up and take the bull by its horns. And we got to realize that the power structure is very violent. They've shown it the whole time we've been here. And if you're scared of that, if you're scared to speak your truth in the face of violence, we gonna keep getting the same shit we've been getting for the last 500 years. And that's real talk. So what was your biggest takeaway?
From what?
From the movie.
Oh man, it's the emotional roller coaster. But more importantly, it kind of give you a illusion of what could happen if we have if black and white people have a conversation, an honest conversation.
Yeah.
And for me, the show, the movie, did a very good job, giving us the best we could get.
Yeah.
Nobody even, what I'm saying? So you go check it out. It's a wonderful one. It's something that's going to challenge you in many different ways. No matter what you look like, this is going to challenge you. And hopefully, we can come up with some ideas around how we engage this systematic phenomenon that we're faced with. And to me, you can't be passive towards it, because it's just going to roll you over.
Yeah.
You got to be thoughtful. You got to think about it. You got to have words like commitment, dedication, perseverance come to mind. When I even look at my career as a professional, I had to overcome adversity. I had to change my mindset on certain things so I could be successful and then be able to do stuff like what we're doing and sharing information. This is a dream come true for us, man. We've been talking and had a friendship that lasts 20 some odd years or more. And, we're finally getting to a place where we can share our truth. And that's the biggest thing is coming out, sharing your truth, and then being mature enough to have an intelligent conversation about it.
Yeah.
So at the end of the day, we're going to keep sharing these resources, keep having this honest conversation, and ask some questions that you're not going to hear every day. You want to come to the Muck and Killa show if you want to talk about something different and get a different perspective.
Yeah, bet. So this is a wrap for the very first edition of a topic, talking black politics. Thanks for all those out there, my people that joined us. We hope you did. We did you proud. And join us next week, Friday nights, 9 to 10, right here on Media Room 360 TV, Facebook Live, Media Room 360. Go to your app, down the app. Until next week. Peace, my people.